Okay, welcome to the Sports Coffee. We've got an additional chat this week. We've got Lewis Reed from formerly of Ipswich Town has decided to come along and have a chat about us and about his time and his interesting time over at Ipswich Town. So, Lewis, how are you?
I'm not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. So, first of all, obviously coming from Wales, how did you get spotted and end up playing for Ipswich Town in the first place?
So, I left Swansea City when I was under 12s, maybe under 13s. Just I wasn't enjoying it,
Sure.
and pretty much as soon as I left the Swans, I thought I just want to be playing with my mates. So someone put me in contact with a Welsh League academy called Pontardawe, and basically they said, "Would you like to just come and train with us? We have a little five-a-side just like little league thing going on a Sunday evening." So I went up there and I absolutely loved it.
Okay.
And from there, I joined as a midfielder because that's what I wanted to be when I was at Swansea. But they pushed me further forward as a striker. And within 18 months of playing at Pontardawe, I was made captain. And then I then had a phone call after playing for Swansea Schoolboys in a friendly against Cardiff Schoolboys from a scout who worked with Manchester United.
Okay.
So originally I went up to Manchester. I went to Carrington twice. Played, funny enough, in the same team as Mason Greenwood and Ted and Mengi.
Okay. Must have been a good experience.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, I laughed about it with my dad because the week before I went to Manchester United, we played a game just on a normal playing field in Swansea, where the changing rooms are run by the council. So we went from one extreme to the other, where the changing rooms at Manchester United are pristine, the club as a whole, the entire building, the pitches were immaculate. So it was a bit of a culture shock. Enjoyed it. But when, unfortunately, Jose Mourinho came in, there was a lot of change on behind the scenes, and the scout who originally scouted me lost his contact because the guy left. But when he originally scouted me, he said to my father and to myself, he said, "Oh, do you have any other family history with football?" And we said, "Yeah, my grandfather used to play for Ipswich back in the 1950s and is actually the Ipswich Town's first ever international player to represent the club."
Oh,
and he said, "I used to play for." He used to be a scout for Ipswich, and he just said after it broke down with Manchester United, "Would you like to go to Ipswich?" And we thought, "Yeah, we'll give it a go." And I went up there at the start of the under-15 season, really enjoyed it. Went up there in the half terms because obviously couldn't really take weeks off school.
Yeah.
And then at under 16, I went into digs for 4 weeks, and in the pre-season, I was offered a 2-year scholarship.
Okay.
And it went from there.
Yeah. So when did your time? How many appearances did you make in that 2-year period? When you just fast forward a little bit during that time, during your scholarship.
I can't tell you. I mean, I think in my first season alone in the league, because we had a big squad, for the first couple of months, it was predominantly second years playing.
Yeah.
So I'd be on the bench more than not. But then, like, say in midweek games, we'd play against teams like Bury Town. We play against Needham Market, Felixstowe.
Yeah.
So you'd get minutes. But I think in my first season, I played 13 league games and only started one of them and didn't play a full 90 minutes at all in the league.
Okay.
But I did play 90 minutes in just friendlies against a couple of touring teams from Ireland and New Zealand, and then against teams like Bury.
When did you feel like you weren't being given an opportunity? You're saying obviously the second years, the majority of the time do take obviously preference because they're obviously trying to get their contracts for that end of that year, aren't they? But when do you feel that you weren't getting the opportunity that you could potentially?
I wouldn't say it was more of a opportunity. It was more of a, like, from my point of view, I could understand that what would, in my second year, I would have expected the same treatment, as in I would be playing more than not, so the club could make my decisions. And it just so happened to be that we planned to play a friendly game against Southampton, and in the meeting early that day, the coach said, "This is the team," and I'd be playing. It was away, and in the warm up, I strained my hip flexor, and from then it was an 11-week injury because it just kept flaring up. And from then on, like, just fell into depression, and then when I came back, just felt my chances were limited. So it was an accumulation of things.
So Lewis, was that in the first year or the second year of your scholarship?
My first year.
Your first year.
Yeah.
Going into your second year, you felt you got over your injury and you felt that you were ready to kick on.
It was difficult. It's difficult to describe the start of my second year, because at the end of my first year, I had to have I struggled with another injury, which was actually an ingrown nail on my toe.
Right. Okay.
And that
would be very painful.
Yeah, it got to the point where I actually had to change my boots to allow for wider boots.
Wow.
I had to change the trainers I wore. I basically wore slides for multiple weeks just because at the time it was infected, and obviously it was causing me a great amount of pain. And in the summer I had it operated on, so I had to be off my feet for 3 weeks. And when I came back to the club, it generally had a sort of an inkling that myself and a couple of others had already had our decisions made. Some of the boys got pushed on to the under 23s.
Yeah.
And some boys were just with the under 18s and never felt that we were going to be pushed up. So I personally had an inkling that I wasn't going to be offered anything pretty much as soon as I got back. That was my second year.
So how did that make you feel? Does that make you more determined, or would that be bring you into your sort of like you mentioned your sort of mindset?
I think it was more it affected me majorly because I honestly thought that I would have had a good chance to prove my ability, to prove what I'm capable of. And I just felt that as soon as I came back, the club had already made their decision that I wasn't going to be there the next season.
Was it the same squad in the second year, or they brought players in that were in your position during that season, that close season?
No, it was pretty much the same squad. Obviously, the second years moved on, and then we had new first years.
Okay.
But yeah, just never really got going. We went to Holland on a pre-season tour. I didn't play the first game, which was against Bayer Leverkusen. Like, we went to Germany, and I didn't play, and I sort of thought, if they're not going to play me, I know my time's up, really. And then we played a tournament at the end of it, and I think I was one of, if not the top goal scorer in the tournament. They actually played me left wing, and I was enjoying it. And then as soon as we came back from Holland, the league started, and it just fell further back and back. Just didn't feel wanted at times.
So do you think, obviously, because you were living in Diggs, weren't you? Do you think that helped with the scenario because you didn't have anybody to potentially talk
A
to them?
little bit, yeah. Obviously, I'd speak to my parents every day
Yeah.
on FaceTime, literally ring them first thing in the morning before when I come home from training and again before bed. But it's not the same as physical contact seeing them. I mean, I found it really tough that in the December of my first year, I came home, but then I didn't see my mum again until for another 3 months because she opened her own business, which meant that she was so busy with work that she couldn't take time off to come and see me. And my mum is my biggest supporter. She's like my best friend. And to see not to see her for 3 months was really, really tough.
So did you have any sort of teammates that you could chat to about your, maybe, not necessarily feeling homesick, but just feeling a bit down on the scenario?
To be fair, I was sort of not like embarrassed, but I found it hard to open up to people.
Mm.
Even when I came back after COVID, it took me a good couple of months to actually open up to go and see a counsellor.
Mm.
So let alone speak to my mates about it was tough. And
I suppose in
like,
a masculine environment, it's something that it's probably seen as a weakness, isn't it?
yeah, it probably is, but I think it wouldn't. I don't blame them for not taking the time. I'm not saying they're at fault, but it's not their job to look after me.
No.
Obviously, they have as your mates, they look out for you and stuff.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it links back to the club. And my post was not. A couple of people think I've got sour grapes about being released. I've not. I'm over being released.
Yeah.
It's just the way that I got treated and lack of welfare that I had when it came to during my scholarship.
You touch on that.
And
you touch on the welfare part. Do Ipswich have a welfare officer like a grassroots club? I run a grassroots football club, and we have to the FA have to tell us that we have to have a welfare officer as part of our committee. So do Ipswich have a welfare officer for the academy?
Yeah, we had one. We
Okay.
he sort of entailed both roles as head of education and welfare.
Okay.
To be fair to him, he sort of took on more of the education side. He came to school with us on a Wednesday, and I got on with him well. To be fair, he was in quite a lot of the meetings when my parents came up to discuss about my welfare.
How many times did your parents come up to speak about your situation?
1, 2. My parents physically had a meeting with the club 3 times, and then my agent came in twice, so 5 times in total. The 2 times my agent came in were to discuss about me leaving.
Right. Okay. So is that when you moved over to go on loan to Colchester? Was that?
Yeah. So in my second year, around October, November, I was at my lowest, like suicidal lowest. In which I spoke to my agent and I said, "You need to get me out of this club." In which he then spoke to the Ipswich and said, "Can Lewis explore other options if you're not going to keep him?" And they said yes. We explored looking at a loan deal to Colchester, which went through, and I joined Colchester in early December until COVID kicked in, really.
Okay. So what was your time like at Colchester before, obviously, the COVID?
I loved it. I went into an environment where the boys never saw me as a trialist. The coaches were I would say some of the best coaches I've worked with. It was the club was run well from top to bottom. I've said it to multiple people. You had a physio who was basically like a big sister to you. The sports scientist guy, he was sort of like, he could have a bit of a laugh with you when he could, but he knew when he needed to do his job.
Yeah.
So the people like the catering staff just made you feel welcome. And I was playing my best football. I think I scored 27 goals in 18 games for the under 18s and 23s.
Wow, that's really.
And this was a kid that when I joined had suicide in his mind, depressed, not fit, didn't want to play football, wanted to go back home to Swansea.
So that's, obviously that, I guess in a mindset that makes you feel that there is a another way of getting through this and playing for another team and feeling and enjoying your football again, because it sounds like being a striker, if you're scoring goals, you're enjoying your football and the environment. So that's
yeah, exactly. I mean, my first game for Colchester was against Bristol City, and we got battered 6-0, but I felt free. I didn't feel like I had any pressure on me, and I personally felt I played really well, and it got noticed because on the Monday I got asked to be on the bench, the under 23s in a friendly. So the club noticed, and in that game I scored 2 goals. So it was literally a click of a switch. My love for football was back. My desire to become a football player was there again. I was happy. I didn't have to worry about off the field stuff. I just was loving life. And then obviously COVID kicked in and put an end to that.
Yeah, so when COVID kicked in, did you go straight back home?
Yeah, so funny enough, I played a game for the under 23s against Bristol City and had a head injury. And the next day I went into the club and failed a concussion test, which they said go home for 2 weeks.
Sure.
They said the day I was meant to come back was the day where rumours were that the clubs across the Football League would start to shut down the training grounds. Yeah. In which I had a message saying, look, stay home. We'll work with you on your rehab and stuff, like start reintroducing running and stuff back home. And then about a month and a half later, I had a phone call saying that the funding at the club has stopped and I won't be able to sign my deal that was drafted up.
Okay. So how did that make you feel?
I remember exactly, I was out with my mum and we were on a walk. And just literally as soon as I heard, he said, oh, we can't take you on. The academy manager rang me to basically tell me. Everything went through my mind, like, I'm without a job. I haven't got a club. What am I going to do for a form of income? When am I next going to kick a ball? So everything went through my mind. And obviously, as you can imagine, from a boy who went from suicidal low to the highest of highs, playing week in, week out for a club that he absolutely loved playing under with great people at the club, to then being told that can't happen anymore. Just got so low and felt down, had nothing to work towards because there was no sign of football coming back anytime soon. I couldn't go on trial at any other clubs because the clubs were shut. No desire because it was just, you just lost all hope really.
How did you get that? How did you get through that part of COVID really? Did you keep yourself fit, personally keep yourself fit? Because you said before you're at Ipswich, you weren't as fit as you should have been when you went to Colchester. So once you left Colchester.
Well, once I passed the concussion test before I had the phone call, Colchester and Ipswich, but I made Ipswich aware that I'd be following Colchester's off-season program. They'd be sending us running sessions to do every day.
Okay.
So it'd be like some running drills, some home-based activities for gym, So I'd be doing that pretty much every single day. First thing in the morning. It was good because it allowed my mum to get out and exercise because her business got shut down.
Okay.
So it moved me closer to my mum, like we were the closest we'd ever been. And then it just, I think I didn't do anything for a couple of weeks, and then my mate said, "Do you fancy just going for a kickabout?" So we did, and then we somehow got onto the conversation about joining a golf club.
Okay.
In which we joined a golf club not far from us, right on the sea. So the views are really good, and we joined, and it was probably the best thing I'd done over lockdown because you had a distraction.
Yeah.
Like you're out on the course for 4.5 hours. You forget about everything. You forget about lockdown. You forget about the last 22 years, and everything just escapes your mind. But the sad thing is that when you're done, you're brought back to reality that you haven't got a club, you've got no form of income.
Yeah.
But for 4.5 hours a day, 3 times a week, it's better than just moping around the house.
No, definitely.
And then I felt, one day woke up just like with COVID like symptoms, went for a test, negative, blood test, nothing wrong. So I was wiped off my feet for about 4 weeks, and then just gradually started to build up my fitness again, hoping that come September we would have thought the league would have started, and my league back in Wales still hasn't started yet.
No. So you've now, on a positive, you've now signed for a team back in Wales, haven't you?
Yeah, I've joined the team called Llanelli. The short story of them is basically they were a big team. They are a big team in the Welsh divisions. From my understanding, I don't know too much, but they have to drop down the leagues. I think a little bit like what Rangers did because of financial problems.
Sure.
But I think they've got the biggest ground in the non-league in Wales. The pitch is, I'd say, probably better than something like Portman Road.
Wow.
Especially just like the times I've trained in it, it's a really good surface. Definitely the best in the Welsh League.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just on the rebuild, so they're one league below the Welsh Prem, and obviously the club's aim is to get back into the Welsh Premier League as soon as possible.
So is that a semi-pro, Lewis?
Yeah, semi-pro. Yeah.
Okay. So are you having to find part-time work to keep you going on?
Yeah. So, in around September time, my mum, she sells and designs kitchens.
Okay.
She sort of said, "Do you want to come and just help out on measures and stuff, and just help her a little bit?" Because she had a load of people. Because the good thing for her is people who saved money to go on holiday, then most of them invested in the house.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So I've gone on board with her now full time, which is good because she knows when the weather's, we look like the weather forecast, and if it's raining in the morning but it's sun in the afternoon, she will let me leave early to go and do my running, to go and do my fitness aspect, and vice versa. If it's sunny in the morning and rain in the afternoon, she's quite lenient with my hours, but
sure.
It's just to give me some normality and social skills, and I'm enjoying working with her because it's got me closer with her, and you actually have something to look forward to when you wake up as such.
No, that's it's a really, for me, starting going through your time at Ipswich and now, it sounds really positive. You've got a really positive outlook, which is excellent.
And I think obviously I've had numerous counselling sessions, and I think it's important that we do get this message across on here, is that my post and my aim of speaking out about my experience and falling into depression and possible suicide is I've not got sour grapes about being released from Ipswich Town. My aim isn't to slam the club. I know the club is going through a lot, but me saying and posting my opinions has got nothing to do with the club's run of results, the club's ownership, the people at the club. I'm here to express my opinions, so people know it's okay to speak out about depression, and people who have gone through something similar to what I have know it's okay that other people are going through it as well, which is why I want to implement change. I've had positive conversations with former football players who are going to support and back a letter, which me and another teammate are going to send to the PFA to help implement change when it comes to an aftercare system amongst clubs. But let me be clear that I'm not aiming to slam Ipswich Town Football Club. I'm aiming to help change, because I can't allow for another boy who's been through what I've been through to experience it, and even worse, to have the thought of suicide, because it's not on. No kid should ever, no person in the world should ever feel that suicide is the only option.
No,
and especially someone at an age like me, 18, 19 years old, it should never be on the forefront of someone's mind.
No, exactly, and I totally agree. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on and have your put your point across and support what you're trying to do. And I think it's a really good step in what you're trying to do. So fair play to you, Lewis. I want to go back to your current playing situation now, because I want this conversation to finish on a positive like you are now. I just think you're still you're 19. You've got the
19, just
the world ahead of you. You can do anything you want if you've got a positive mindset. So as a supporter of Llanelli, what can the supporters, once you're allowed back on the pitch, what can the supporters expect from you other than goals?
Someone who's a team player, who puts the team first and ahead of himself. Being a striker, obviously, you want to score goals, but I know that a team goal is better than me being selfish. And that's something I do pride myself on, in that I know when to play the pass to score an easy tap in instead of trying to shoot from 20 yards. They've got a player who will give his all. Just a player that when he's playing with confidence will hopefully help get Llanelli back to the Welsh Premier League in the next couple of years. Well, hopefully this season, should the league start, or definitely next season.
Oh, definitely. Excellent. Okay. So what is your aim going forward as a player? So obviously you want to try and get them into promotion. In your back of the mind, is there still, obviously because you're still not only 19, is there that desire, if you're successful here?
So I've had numerous conversations with the club, because the club basically said to me that they understand that my situation is that I want to become a professional football player. That's still my dream. It has been since I was a young kid, and it will be until I feel that I haven't got the opportunity anymore, whether that be through to age or another something else comes up, whether that be through a line of work or something.
Yeah, sure.
But the club completely understand that should there be a scout watching from a club in England or Wales and I'm offered to go on trial, they won't stand in my way. The manager himself used to work for Cardiff City. He knows that my ambition is to become a pro footballer. So as much as I do plan to help the club, my aim is also the club to help me, as in to push me on to the next step. But when
it's a two-way system, if you play well, you get an opportunity to success a bit quicker than you may do, or if you don't, and you sort of decide to, or you play at that level, then you're still helping the club, aren't you?
But the one thing I can promise Llanelli Town fans is that when the referee blows the whistle, my mindset is on the next 90 minutes. I'm focused on playing for Llanelli until I have a phone call which says, Lewis, X club wants to take you on trial. My sole aim is to help push Llanelli forward.
That's
So,
that's all you can do. So we're gonna wrap it up there. I'm gonna one more question, and I think it's quite a poignant question. Is for any young players out there who are still similar to yourself, maybe a bit younger, are their ambition is to become a pro footballer. What would your advice be for them to try and get that opportunity? I know you've been in that situation, but what would you if you had your set time around again? What would you say to them?
I'd never tell someone not to do something they didn't want to do. As for example, I got asked, if someone was to ask you, would you do a scholarship again, with a different club and with a different experience? I'd never tell anyone to turn down an opportunity. Like, unfortunately for me, it didn't work out at Ipswich Town, yet my good mate at Colchester has just made his first team debut.
Brilliant.
And just signed a pro contract. So it's for some people, like my mate, that they'll do well. Some people, like myself, it hasn't worked out. So the one better thing I can tell people, whether that be kids or whether that be parents, is that make sure you got a smile on your face, because if you haven't got a smile on your face, you might as well stop.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a full-time environment, as doing a scholarship or a professional club, just be assertive and basically just stand up for yourself, because at the end of the day, you've only got yourself to back, and that's it, really.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, and it's really good to for you to again come on and tell us your story. I really do appreciate it, especially you're only 19. You've hardly lived really in the whole world, but you've got so many experiences. So I think, Lewis, it'll bring you a stronger, make you stronger as a person, and I really wish you the best in your career, wherever it takes you on your journey.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on. You.
No problem whatsoever. But no, I really appreciate that. So we'll have this episode will be put onto our Sports Coffee YouTube channel. We'll put that on our Twitter and our Facebook once it's available. Please everybody have a watch and support and follow. Lewis, what's your Twitter handle where people can follow you? I'll put you on the spot.
I'm not sure. Now. It's different to what I thought it was the other day. I think it's Lewis J Reed 10.
Okay.
Or it might just be Lewis J Reed, but so, I think you did tweet it the other day, so you'll have to check.
Yeah. So if people watching or listening, if you just put that into the search at Twitter and follow Lewis and support his plans for obviously making.
And a final message for anyone is that should they ever be in a situation where they feel that they need someone to talk to, my DMs are always open. Just drop me a message, either with you, just to say for a chat, and I'll be sure to text you back. That's one thing I can guarantee.
Brilliant. No, that's a really good finishing note. Thanks, Lewis, and all the best for the future.
Cheers. Thank you.